everybody. Welcome back to the New England Raider Booster Club show here. Just stopping in for a little bit, talk some stuff about the club, wrapping up the final game of the season this weekend. It's 4:35 p.m. or 4:25 p.m. at the Providence Fireman's Hall. So just checking in, just see what everybody's up to. Let me just make sure. Let me get some changes made here. I don't want that. Yes, there we go. That's better. I like the look of that better. Much, much better. Okay. Sorry. So, anyway, looking forward to this weekend's game. So we've got the Chargers, 4:25 p.m. in Vegas, the last game of the season. Supposedly they're going to be sitting some players, so we'll see what happens there with who's actually going to be playing for us, or not us, but for them. But before that, just want to get into some club news here. So as you can see, I got a different hat on now. So this is the new winter beanies that we just picked up today. This was the old style, so we kind of switched it up a little bit. Went with a different layout for the design this time. So we will have these available on Sunday. The hats are going to be $20 a piece. They do come down a little bit further on the back of the neck, so they fit a little better. They're extremely comfortable. I like it. We also have the magnets, which I have one right here for show and tell. The magnet with the QR code on it, so you can see there. These are for vehicles, fridges, whatever you want to put them on. So we do have those. We are in the works for trying to come up with a club store, something that would be completely online, where the items would be shipped directly to you. It's in the very, very early stages of just trying to obtain information on how we want to handle this. So there will be hopefully more of that to come. So as everybody knows, January 1st, all our new officers took over. Now in for the next 4 years. What's up, Raider Paul? How you doing, buddy? All of our officers are now instilled as our governing body for the next 4 years. So myself as the president. Tony Ramos is now our vice president. Mark Lafredo is our secretary still. He's one of the incumbents. Tony is new to the vice presidency. He was one of our executive directors. So he was promoted, basically. He ran for vice president and got it. Dawn LaFontaine, my wife, is the actual treasurer now. She was an interim treasurer for a good chunk of the year last year. So she is now the fully voted in treasurer for the club. And then we have 3 executive board members. That is Carlos Lopez Estrada. He used to be one of our executive directors. He was beat out 4 years ago. He's ran again this year, and he is back in office. Bruce Hendrickson has been one of our executive board directors for many, many years. He's one of our incumbents. He won again with the most votes. He actually pulled in 40 votes that day, so nobody was even close. And our 3rd executive director is Dennis LaFazia. He's new to the board also. Everybody's been members of this club for a long time. Dennis, this is his first time on the executive board. Same with Dawn. This is Dawn's first actual voted in position now, where she's been a member for many years along with myself. The only member that is or has departed is Kyle Rondo. We do thank him for his 4 years of service as one of our executive directors. We do appreciate everything that he did for us through those 4 years, especially at our annual Christmas party, where him and Mike Reardon both did the cooking for the preparation for the food for the party. The food was excellent. Just to fill everybody in, we had chicken parm, we had shrimp scampi, we had a penny alla vodka, salad, pork, chicken wings, total food, and so much food that was left at the end of all that. Chicken parm was awesome. Uh, the shrimp scampi was fabulous. Uh, all the food was very well prepared, and there was no doubt that they were going to be able to put out a good spread, and they did exactly that. So now that brings us to this weekend, the last game of the season. Now the kitchen is going to be closed at the bar again. Um, so what we did last Sunday was the club purchased pizzas for the members that were there. So we have all intentions of doing the same thing this week. We won't know how many we're going to order until we get there Sunday to see how many members show up. But the club will be providing the pizza because the kitchen will not be open. So rather than have the members have to worry about bringing something or coming up with other arrangements or eating prior to, we will be providing the pizza. And Dawn is also going to make a big ass tray of cookies too. And usually with the executive board, the Sunday between the NFC and AFC championship game and the Super Bowl that Sunday, we usually get together for our first meeting of the executive board for the year, and we'll set our calendar out for the year as far as what we're going to do for fundraisers, the pool tournament, mini golf, summer barbecue, all that. But the biggest thing that we're going to have going on for the 2025 season is the Raiders are coming here to New England to play the Patriots. So with that being said, that means as a club, we're going to be looking to do a Saturday night pregame party the night before the game, and also a tailgate the day of the game. Now, we don't know a date yet. We just know that we're coming here to play the Patriots this season, coming in 2025. So as soon as we get a date set, then we can go ahead and, procure a place to have the pregame party. We're hoping we can have it at the Fireman's Hall, but we can't solidify anything until we know dates. So if they're already booked, then we're going to have to find other arrangements. So there's not a lot to really discuss about it, but I'm just putting it out there so everybody's aware that we are coming here to play the Patriots. So any of our West Coast friends that we deal with that go to away games and have vision of coming to New England to watch the Raiders hopefully dismantle the Patriots, you're going to want to reach out to me, and you're going to want to reach out to the club and let us know, if you guys are planning on coming out here. We will see what we can do to help get you guys information on hotels, what's going to be going on in the area, what we've got planned. So as more details drop, I'll be on here regularly updating it. And then if you hit all of our social media platforms, as we come up with stuff, that stuff will also be presented on there too. So if you guys go to this link here, this takes you to all of our social media platforms, and you can have direct links right to everything, right to our YouTube, Twitter, or X, Instagram, TikTok, our website, Facebook group, and that's everything. It'll have everything there for you if you go to that link. So, as far as club stuff, that's pretty much until we have our meeting in February. Again, this is the last week of the season for the 2024 season, so this is our last chance as a group to get together. So kind of hoping for a good turnout for the last game. Hopefully we get a win out of this, because I don't want to lose. I want to go out on a good note. We'll go out on a win. I know some people say it's a bad note because we need to lose so we can keep a low draft pick, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. So you play the game to win the game, plain and simple. That's how I've always had it in my philosophy. My philosophy is to win, always win, no matter what the cost. You got to cheat to win, you cheat to win. Old school Raider style. Who gives a shit? So let's get into a little bit of talk about the Raiders and what's going on. Keep in mind, I'm only going to be on until about quarter of to 10 minutes of 10 East Coast time, because we've got the Raider Connection coming up tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern time. And that is myself, Cheetah Linus, Jay from Just Win Babies, Win Raiders, baby, and LV Raider 10. The four of us are on previewing the game for this coming game against the Chargers. So I just wanted to get on here, promote that a little bit too. So don't forget that. Normally we're every Wednesday, but because of the holidays, we've kind of had to alter our schedule along with like everybody else has this past couple of weeks because of the holiday. So we will be on at 10 o'clock Eastern time tonight. And next week, we'll be back on our normal day, which is Wednesday night at 10 o'clock. And next Wednesday night, we're going to have a special guest. We're going to have none other than Peggy Holmes from the DC Metro Club. She will be on with us, with the four of us, discussing the end of the season. I know she usually does a report card. I don't know if she's going to be doing that with us, but we will have her on as a guest. And anybody that knows Peggy knows how much knowledge she has about the Raiders, and how much she's passionate about this team. So definitely tune in for that because it's going to be a heck of a show because she's a wonderful person and was hoping she was going to be able to make it to our 20th anniversary party this past season when we hit our 20th anniversary. She was here for our 10th. We went up to a place in amusement park in New Hampshire for our 10th anniversary. We went to Canopy Lake for the weekend as a whole club. And she actually came up from the DC metro area and came up to New Hampshire with us, and partied with us all weekend. So she was fun to be around that day too, or that weekend. So she knows a lot of the club members, and she knows the New England Raider Booster Club. We've got a pretty good following. We're pretty well respected within the Booster Club community, especially on the East Coast. A lot of people know who we are. But getting into the Raiders, as far as this weekend, I don't see why we can't win this game. It's definitely a winnable game again. I keep saying that. Been right the last 2 weeks at least, so I'm shooting for number 3. Especially if the Chargers are going to sit people, or sit players, which, I mean, they've already got a playoff spot locked up. They really can't move around in the seating. I think if they didn't have a playoff spot locked up, then we definitely would want to win this game regardless, because nothing is more fun than being a spoiler for somebody in your own division, especially when it's the Chargers, because none of us can tolerate the Chargers as Raiders fans. So I don't see why we can't win this game. We're going to be starting the same guys we have been starting the last couple of weeks. Nothing's going to change there, I'm sure. There's really no reason for us to sit anybody, unless they're seriously questionable on injuries. Then you might want to think about sitting certain players just to make sure that they're going to be good and healthy and ready to go by OTAs of 2025 season and by the training camp, for the regular season. I fully expect AOC 12 to be the starter this week. I can't imagine them pulling the wool over us and naming someone else the starter. We all know Max is going to be out, obviously. Running game, it's going to be the same. Abdul is going to be our running back, along with Madison. It would be nice to see Lobby get in there and get some play time. Let's see what this kid's got. Wide receivers are going to be the same. Brock Bowers, hopefully we feed the ball to him as much as possible so he really extends those records that he's already achieved and keep ahead of neighbors from New York, because I want him to finish number 1 in the rookie categories for pretty much anything and everything he can. I don't want him sneaking up on us and passing Brock for everything else, and all of a sudden now he's got the big records for all the rookies now. Yeah, I know he'll have the rookie for tight end, but I want him to have the rookie overall, period. No questions asked, on the receiving records. Excuse me. Still trying to break up this cold. So, now, Monday's going to be a big day. Not just for the Raiders, but for the NFL in general. It's what's known as Black Monday. That is usually when the first coach gets fired. And then usually once the first coach in the NFL gets fired, they kind of fall like dominoes. The other teams kick it in the gear and make their decisions soon. because the first thing you want to do is you want to start planning out who you want to interview. And if people become available that aren't in the playoffs yet or are out of the playoffs already, you want to be the first ones that have a crack at, some of these former coaches or assistant coaches, OCs, DCs, whatever. So they call it Black Monday, but we all know that sometimes this starts as soon as the last game is over on a Sunday. Um, if it's us, I mean, it could be as soon as our game is over because it's a home game. It's easier to part ways with a coach right then and there rather than wait till Monday. You know, I'm fine with AP coming back for another year, but now we've got some big question marks because supposedly Patrick Graham did not want to sign a contract extension. So now where does that put us with, defensive coordinator that we're going to have to find now? Is it going to be easy for us to find a defensive coordinator that's going to work with what we have? I hate to see him go because I think he's done a great job as a defensive coordinator, especially this season with all the issues we had with injuries and the lack of depth and how he pretty much held his own with that. And still put out there a respectable defense. So now what direction do we go? Who do we bring in? Is it easier for us at that point to bring in a new head coach that can bring a top tier defensive coordinator with him? Is there any defensive coordinator out there that's going to want to take the chance and come to the Raiders knowing our history with coaches? Especially if your head coach has only got another year left on his contract, because if he supposedly has a 2-year contract, then he's technically only here for one more year. And what does that do for that defensive coach, that defensive coordinator, and an offensive coordinator? Same thing, too. Is it easier for us to bring in a new DC and a new OC along with keeping AP? Or is it easier to bring in new OC DC? Sounds like a new rock band, OCDC. Bring in a new OC and DC with a new head coach. So that there's so much that could really have an effect on all this. It's like where do we go? What do we do here? Ultimately the decision comes down to Mark Davis, Telesco, and I'm sure Brady's going to be involved in this too. Again, I'm fine with AP if he stays for another year, but is that going to hinder us from getting a good offensive coordinator? Because I don't think the Turners are it. Yes, they showed improvement with what they've done since they both took over. But losing Patrick Graham is going to be huge. So if AP stays, does that hinder us on what we get for OCs and DCs? But if we do say we part ways with AP, the only way I would want to see us part ways with him is if the intent is to seriously consider bringing Vrabel in. Because in my eyes, I think he's the only proven commodity that's out there right now. I don't want Gruden. I know people are starting to throw the name Gruden around again, and that's kind of aggravating. Because that's the last person I want back as a head coach on this team. We've done it twice now. Second time didn't work out so well. First time we traded him away to Tampa in the middle of the night. And then that ended up costing us the Super Bowl. There's no two ways about it. That cost us that Super Bowl. It has nothing to do with Barrett Robbins, and it was Gruden going to Tampa Bay and our dumbass head coach Callahan at the time not changing things. And that's a result of us trading away Gruden. And then the second time was someone was digging deep in emails at the Redskins facility, and part of another totally different investigation. It had nothing to do with Gruden. It's just the emails were going through, and that's when they found this, and it all just came out. And then he ended up having to resign. So that was strike 2 on him. I don't want to have a third strike with Gruden. So Gruden, as far as I'm concerned, should not even be considered an option. But I know I've seen fans clamor over that. Oh yeah, definitely. I agree 100%, John. Gruden, if he doesn't have total control, he's going to want no part of this. He would probably be one of the easier ones for us to get because just who he is and what the team is, because he knows what he's going to be getting into. Whereas it might be a tough sell for us to get another head coach, another former head coach, of his potential caliber. Because in all honesty, let's face it, who really wants to come here with this dysfunctional shit that we've had for how many years now? He is the type of guy that would take that flyer because, number one, the way he left the coaching ranks, the way he left the league a few years ago, this would be the only way you could see him coming back in, or I could see him coming back in, is because he knows he can take that chance and put his neck on the line again for the Raiders. But Vrabel is the one that I would want to go with, So, I mean, I'm looking at addressing everything in chronological order pertaining to the Raiders. So the first main business for the Raiders organization is the coaching position. What do we do? What do we do? Do we keep? Do we keep? Do we move on? If we keep, who do we bring in to assist him? If we move on, who do we bring in to take over, and who comes with that person, with that head coach? Now, like I said, if we move on from AP, it better be for Vrabel. I don't want a Ben Johnson. I don't want an unproven commodity. Yeah, they're proven commodities at their individual coordinators' positions. I get that. I understand that. I have total respect for what he's done in Detroit. And personally, I don't see Ben Johnson leaving Detroit unless they win a Super Bowl, because I think he's going to look at it. He's got unfinished business there. Because if he leaves, it's not going to be the same for him. Because if all of a sudden Detroit wins the Super Bowl after him, after he's gone, and they're like, well, was it really him? Because they couldn't get over the hump as he was there. He's going to have a point to prove, which is why I don't think you're going to see him leave. You're not going to see him leave. So now who comes with him? So let's just hypothetical Vrabel's the one. Who comes in with him? Personally, on the offensive side, I would like to see Brian Daboll come in. And I've said this a few different times on different shows. And I've said it myself on this show, just me alone, gabbing here. I would want Daboll because there's two factors why I want him. One, I saw what he did for Josh Allen's game and how he turned Josh Allen back around and made him what he pretty much is right now when he was the offensive coordinator in Buffalo. And prior to that, a lot of people don't realize where his tenure was before that. He was here in New England as a tight ends coach back when they had Gronk and they had Aaron Hernandez. And you look at what he did with those two in that tight end position. Now, fast forward to where we are right now. We've got Brock Bowers. We've got Michael Mayer. I'm not saying that they're both Gronk and Hernandez, but Bowers could be just as good as Gronk, if not even better. Gronk's even said it himself that, Bowers could end up being better than he was himself. And I'm not saying Michael Mayer is the next Hernandez, but he's got the potential. Mayer's the definite better blocker out of the two. But just think what you could do with somebody that knows the potential and has had success in the past handling two tight ends of their caliber right now and what they could excel. All right. And then you couple him with, like, say, AOC 12 right now. What he could do for him in the long run, turning him around too. He did good enough to make Daniel Jones a freaking multi-millionaire with that massive contract they signed him, but the guy was just a bum. I don't think AOC 12's a bum. A lot of people do that are Raider fans. They think he's no good for us. You're not even giving him a chance. You cannot take what Aiden O'Connell has done in the full year that he's been a starter now. Because you think about when he took over last year, plus the games he's played this year, he's basically got a full season under his belt now. But he was thrown into such a weird situation. So last year, your coach gets let go midway through the season. You have an interim head coach. He automatically names, or right away, he names AOC 12 the starter. So as a rookie, he takes over. He looked good. The team was going in the right direction, which gave us hope for this year based on how the team ended, how the season ended. Defense was a top 10 defense. They were playing out of their mind. Offense was moving. And then you fast forward to 2024 season, and all of a sudden now we bring in Minshew. he's now named the starter by Getsy and AP, which I still don't think that was an AP move because I every time you see AP talk about Aiden O'Connell, that you can tell that's his guy. That's who he wants. I mean, he took no time to pull the trigger last season and put him in instead of Garoppolo. And the funny thing is, Garoppolo is going to be starting this weekend for the Rams. So how funny is that, right? I know we're not playing them, but I just find it kind of comical. So then they go into the season and they got Minshew as the starter. A complete disaster. Okay, yeah, great. He beat Baltimore, but I think that was a product of the fact that Baltimore was still not gelling as an offense yet. Their defense is their defense, but their offense was still not gelling yet. It was only the second game with Henry as your running back. They were still feeling each other out. If we would have played Baltimore a couple of weeks later, they would have destroyed us. We never would have won that game. It was just weird that we ended up winning that game in Baltimore, no less. So you look how this season went, those first 4 games, and I know everybody's like, well, AP said that those were going to be the 4, basically the 4 toughest games of the season. Every game was a tough game this season. Just watch how we played. Because of the 4 defenses he was going up against first, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's just your way of saying we screwed up and that's why we started him. No other excuse. So AOC 12 should have been starting from the start of the season in my eyes. I think he would have given us a better chance. I tell you right now, we'd have more than 4 wins right now. I would put money on that. So again, where do we go with OC if Vrabel comes in? I know I kind of went off on a tangent here. So if AOC comes in, I'm not AOC. If Daboll comes in as your OC with Vrabel, now again they were together in New England too, so they do have a rapport with each other, so they are familiar with each other. So that definitely helps also. So now it's a matter of if Patrick Graham does not agree to stay, even with the new coach coming in, and he ends up leaving. So now who do we bring in as a defensive coordinator? I honestly don't even have a suggestion or an answer for that one because I haven't even looked that far into it yet as far as like who should we bring, because I always thought we were going to have Patrick Graham, because if we were going to let go of the coach AP and let everybody else go, there was only 2 coaches I wanted to see stay, and that was Patrick Graham and Philbin, because I think Philbin earned the right to stay as our offensive line coach because of what he's done with that offensive line since he took over as the offensive line coach. I have the utmost respect for what he's done with that team, with that offensive line. So I always thought we were going to have Graham. So I never really looked into who would be a good replacement based on the roster we have. But keep in mind, this roster is going to be completely different, especially on the defense. We got a lot of guys on defense that we need to look at, who we're going to re-sign, who we want to bring in as free agents. So that has a lot to do with who do we bring in as our next defensive coordinator. So once the coaching is set up, if we're looking at this in a chronological order, once the decision is made on coaching, whether it's we stay or we move on, who we bring in and who do we bring in that's going to assist them. Now the next step is free agency, because free agency is always before the draft. So now you got to look at what you think you're going to be able to get in the draft with whatever pick we finally finish at the end of the season. By the end of the game Sunday, we'll know where we're going to be picking for sure. Now with free agency, you look and see what's out there for free agents, and you look and see where you're going to potentially land some of these players in the draft, and you adjust what you want to go after for free agency. We already know where our weaknesses are. Our weaknesses right now, right off the bat, is we know quarterback, technically quarterback, but I still think we got one with AOC right now for a little bit yet. But where we get wide receiver, big time. You got Jacoby Myers. The other 2 are so small. Not saying that they're not good, but we need a bona fide number one style wide receiver. So we're weak there. We are definitely weak at running back. The good thing is this draft is filled with running backs and wide receivers. But in free agency, you've got some big names that are good players in free agency. Like my personal feeling that I would love to see us grab in free agency would be Najee Harris. I think Najee Harris coming in as our number one, signing for 2 years as our number one running back. You end up drafting one in the draft, and who we already have on the roster. You know, you've already got Sincere McCormick. So if you have Najee Harris and you have Sincere McCormick in the back being groomed behind him, along with a rookie running back, and now you just keep somebody for depth, whether it's Lobby or Madison or Abdullah, you got to make a decision there. And then the other weakness we have is our offensive guards. We're all set at right tackle with Glaze. We're all set at center with JPJ. And right now, yeah, I'd say we're okay at left tackle with Colton Miller. But you still could pick one up in free agency or in the draft. And if you want to talk about moving draft picks, or not moving draft picks, but getting extra draft picks, you look at packaging Colton Miller up for some draft picks too, to add some more depth to this team. Because you definitely can do that. Because you're going to lose him next year anyway. Because he's only here for one more year, and he's going to be gone as a free agent unless we re-sign him. But hasn't been the same this year with the injury, and you can see it with his left arm when he comes off the line for any type of pass block, and he's a little slower with his left arm coming up. James, he's got to go. Parham, we could have let him go 3-4 weeks ago for all I care, because I just don't like his gameplay. He's not helping that offensive line. And what makes it even worse right now is the fact that we've had to move JPJ over to left guard, and now you got Andre James playing center, and then you got Parham playing right next to him at right guard. So your weakness is right smack dab in the middle of that offensive line now. Your strength is your left side, left guard, left tackle, and your outside right tackle in Glaze. So your weak point really is up the middle, and where are some of your best defensive tackles? Right up the middle. Guys like, granted, we're done playing them and everything, but you think about it. If this was early in the season and we had to do this, and you had Jones in there coming up, forget it. With those two, forget it. You would just crush us. I think I was done playing them already. So yeah, definitely. There's two guys right there we need to get rid of. Let them go, trade them. I don't care, whatever. Get them out of the building. Pick those guys up in free agency if we can. Pick them up in the draft. As far as what we have for free agents that we need to worry about re-signing, on the defense especially, first and foremost, Chason earned his right to be re-signed. As far as I'm concerned, I think he's played out of his mind since we picked him up. Spillane, definitely another one that should definitely be re-signed. Now, Kuntz, we don't know how he's going to come back from his injury. If all signs point to he's looking good and he should be regaining the same form he had in 2023 season, then obviously, you're going to want to keep him. Max is Max. I mean, he's still in the contract anyway. I'll get back to him in a moment, though, because some of you might not like this take on him. Divine Diablo, I'm good with him going. Jacorian Bennett, it sucks that some of these guys got injured. We never really got a chance to really see how they can be this year. There's so many players that we need to take a hard look at, because we can't keep them all. We got 21 or 22 free agents. So we've got some serious decisions that we need to make. But we also have to keep in mind, we were hurting at depth this year with all the injuries and everything else that went on. So we have to keep that in mind when it comes to re-signing some of these guys. And because of injuries, if we re-sign some of these guys that were injured that are free agents, they're going to have to come at a price discount, because didn't do anything to earn it. Like Kuntz is going to come back. If he comes back, he's going to have to come back on the cheap. Because, dude, you didn't even play this year, so you weren't even able to showcase how valued you are to the team. You did in 2023, but that was a year ago. We need to see what you're worth going forward. So if they sign him to a smaller contract with the intent that, you want to make it incentive laden, where he gets X amount of sacks or pressures, whatever, you know, as these bonuses, incentives, I'm fine with that, because you're still not guaranteed to have to pay that out. It's all on how he performs. That's why I like incentive laden contracts, because you don't take that immediate hit for him. I'd rather do something like that than, giving somebody a guarantee. Like Minshew. Minshew should be cut as soon as we can possibly cut him where he does the least impact to the salary cap. Gone. Quarterback, you're going to keep ALC 12. Now who do you keep? Do you keep Ritter? Do you keep Bradley? What do you do? Do we bring in another veteran quarterback, but with the intent that that veteran is going to be strictly a backup that gives us a good, healthy backup for Aiden O'Connell? Because, again, everything hinges. I mean, these are all pipe dreams. These are all wishes, and this is what we think we want. This is what we should do. All this is for nothing until we decide what's going on with the coach, which is why after Monday, it's a bigger deal at that point, because then we can really start getting into the meat and potatoes of the off season. And until that time comes, there is nothing we can do, or other than just wish for this, wish for that. I want this, I want that. It's just sort of like when you go on Amazon. You go through, you look at something, and you throw it into your wish list. So everybody make a wish list of this is what we wish we can do. And then once they decide the coach, now we have to turn that over to a reality list of this is what we need to do now. And a lot of people don't look at it that way. A lot of people just like, oh, this is what we need to do, and we need to do it this way. No, it doesn't work that way. It never works that way. You want it to work the way you think it should, but it's not gonna. It's impossible. Not in today's NFL. It's just not going to happen in today's NFL. With some of these heavy contracts that these guys get and everything, it just teams get strapped. And I don't know. A lot of people remember some of the contracts that Al Davis used to do. A lot of our players would never make it to year 4 or 5, and the reason being is because he would do heavy back end contracts. So he would sign them up for lower money up front. But when they got to year 4 and 5, that's when the contract price would jack. And then you end up losing a player because we're not going to pay them that kind of money, and they go bye-bye, and then everybody's like, what the fuck? Wait, so-and-so, why did we lose? Why did we get rid of that guy? Well, because he's going to make $20 million this year. He was only getting $10 million last year, but because of the heavy-ended contract, we're losing these players. And that used to happen a lot. They played great during that time frame, but it always seemed like when it got time for that contract, it just was time for them to say, "See you later. You're gone now." But so I mean, this is going to be an interesting off season for sure. There's a lot. There's going to be a lot to do with this. We've got so many different options. Our draft pick is obviously going to be the biggest sticking point. Where we end up, what we deem is going to be our definite need. The biggest thing I don't want to see us do is I do not want to see us give up draft equity to move back into the top 4 or 5 or 3, move back into like the 1, 2, 3 or 4 or 5 pick. That's just nonsense. And for what are we moving back in there for? For one of those 2 quarterbacks, and you're going to give up? I don't want to take them with the first pick, regardless if they fall to us, let alone move back up into the earlier picks to get either one of them. Why would I want to give up equity for, draft equity for two players that I don't think we should even be thinking about drafting, because I just don't think they're going to work out. That's my gut feeling. I know it's just a gut feeling. But first of all, we do not have a good history with number one quarterbacks. Never have. Doesn't mean it won't be the same this time. But I just don't agree with using a early first round pick on a player that's not even going to touch the field for the entire 2025 season, unless, God forbid, something stupid happens or something crazy happens where we have to put them on the field. But if the intent is to sit them for a year, why are we going to waste a first round pick? That is one of the worst returns on a first round. I don't care if we win Super Bowls 10 years from now with them. It's still not worth it. I want a player that when we draft, they are. I thought I saw some breaking news or something, but it's some bullshit, dumbass. One of these lame ass reports that people put out all the time about how the Raiders are getting this guy. Oh, this guy just got signed. That's not even true. They can't sign anybody. Anyway, I'd rather go for value, meaning I want a player that we're going to draft that's going to have an immediate impact. You want an immediate impact? Let's talk the kid from Penn State, the defensive end. There's a perfect example. Let's talk the cornerback from, from Michigan. Guys that are going to come in and pretty much are going to be impact. Abdul Carter, that's his name. Abdul Carter, edge rusher. A guy that's going to be an immediate impact on this team. A guy that can start day one. Even who's the other guy here? Where is he? Will Johnson from Michigan, another guy, a cornerback that can start right away, first game of the season. That can do some good. Even a running back later in the first round. Even if we move back later in the first round and we grab a running back, I've been watching them even prior to yesterday's game, but yesterday's game just kind of really sealed it for me. Scatterbo. Oh my God, this kid yesterday, he didn't have an ounce of anything left to give on that field yesterday. He played his ass off. That kid was in it to win it, and it showed. This kid is a fighter. He's a hell of a player. I would love to have somebody like that. That's the type of player we need. A guy with that mentality that he just doesn't quit, just like JPJ. JPJ doesn't quit. You watch him, how he finishes plays. He goes until that whistle is blown. He does not stop. And this kid was the same way yesterday. This kid left it all out on the field. He looked physically drained at the end of that game. And that's how you know you've got a warrior on your hands right there. I know everybody's like, oh, Genty. The one thing that scares me about Genty is the amount of miles he's already going to come with if we end up drafting him, especially in the first round. The amount of times he's touched the ball in college and just the abuse that his body's already taken in that time in college. How is that going to translate over to when he comes to the NFL? Is he going to go to a team like, say it's us, or is he going to go and be an every down back where he's out there, like Saquon and like Henry, where he's out there for every freaking play? It's going to take a toll on him. He's not going to last. Just like Josh Jacobs 2 years ago when he had that phenomenal season for us. We gave him the ball way too many times. If McDaniels would have stayed as our head coach and that's the way he was going to run him, that kid wouldn't have lasted 2 more years in the league running like that, because we would have just beat the piss out of him, especially with a poor offensive line. You put him back there with that offensive line we have right now, he'd still put up great numbers, but it would be a lot more abuse on him for sure. The last thing you want to do is have to hand off to your running back any more than 25 times. 25 to 30 times a game is just too much. Anything beyond 30, forget it. If your running back's running for, 30 plus carries every goddamn game, just one running back, that's a lot. And you're putting a lot of wear and tear on a guy. Um, that's just too much. And like I said, there's a lot of wide receivers in this draft, so there's no need to jump early at even a running back or a wide receiver because there's some that we can get way later in the draft. I don't mean way later, like sixth and seventh round. I'm talking like in the third and fourth round. Don't forget, we got an extra third round pick too. And I believe we picked back to back too. So we'll have two picks side by side, or from the area I'm in, or whatever, from side by each. So you're gonna have two fairly early picks in that third round, which is huge. So we've got 4 picks in the first 3 rounds. We could acquire more picks too. It's very doable. And this is what brings me to Max Crosby. I know a lot of people have been talking about it. Yeah. What's up, Ronnie? How you doing, brother? My feeling on the whole Max Crosby situation is comes leading up to draft day. If teams are calling, I'm listening. If teams are calling and saying, "Hey, we're what would it take for us to get Max Crosby from you?" Well, what are you offering me? Here's Max Crosby. You see what he's done. You know his body of work. Look at the guy. He's a physical specimen. You know what you're getting with him. You make me an offer. What do you want for him? So I'm that other team. I'm like, well, 1 first round pick. Okay. Are you talking about first round this year or first round next year? First round next year. All right. What are you giving me for this year? Second round, sweeten it up a little bit. What else you got? What else you want to give me for that? Because I'll take your first round for next year. What pick you guys got this year? Oh, we're number 15. How about you give me your first round pick for this year too? And we'll give you a third round pick from this season for this draft right now. We'll give you the Jets pick. All right. And you give us a 4th rounder this year. It's interesting. That's the type of thing that you need to think of. Fans can't get attached to a single player so much because, number one, they're not going to be here forever. You're only going to have them for so long before they're going to want more money, or they're going to get injured and they're just going to get older, lose a step, and they're not worth what you think they are. Max is worth every penny that somebody offers for him right now because he's still in his prime. We'll be able to get a shit ton of equity for him. And that's what a lot of people don't think about. And that's what you need to think about. You need to think about what this guy as a player can do for me now if he's not even here. Meaning, if I get rid of him, this is what I'm getting in his place. I'm getting young talent that's going to have a longer impact. I'm taking one player and turning it into 3 players over the course of 2 drafts. Or are you turning it into 3 players in this draft? Because as soon as you get that first round pick for the 2026 season, you start talking to teams that are also picking in the first round this year, but don't have an immediate need for someone that we're targeting, and you offer them that pick for this year, for their first round this year, the next year's pick. Now you just turned, instead of getting 2 picks this year, 1 pick for next season, you just turned it into 3 picks this season, this draft, and you're immediately impacting this team. You're bringing in players that are going to help you get back to be respectable within our division. Because remember, this isn't what we do in the league as a whole in the NFL. It's what we do in our division first. First and foremost, we need to conquer our division. If we can conquer our division, the rest falls into place. Because we got 3 tough teams in our division. You've got the Broncos, you got the Chargers, and you got the Chiefs. You've got three great coaches in our division. You've got two really good quarterbacks and one rookie right now in our division. You've got some great defensive tackles or defensive ends in this league in our division alone. You've got Carter in Kansas City. You got Bosa and you got Mack in LA with the Chargers. And I don't even know who's on. You got basically the biggest name on the defense for Denver is Surtain. So you've got great players on offensive for all three teams and on the defense for all three teams. So your competition is within this division first. Your first goal is to not get swept in our own division. Like if we lose this weekend, we're gonna have happen this week. You need to start with worrying about your division first, not against, Minnesota next season or, the Miami Dolphins if we play them and this team and that. No, you're going to worry about the Broncos, the Chargers, and the Chiefs. Those are the three teams you need to address first. Because if you can win all three games or beat all three teams twice, you're 6-0. And you're 6-0 in the division, number one, which is huge. But that's already 6 games right there. That's over a third of the season already. And you've already got 6 wins. If you can stay competitive in your own division. And right now we're not. And that's where it starts and ends in my eyes, is the division. Let's see, I drank the Max Kool-Aid. 2 first rounds for Telesco to work as Magic. Promote Robbie Leonard as our new DC. Do you receive? I don't know enough about Leonard, to be honest with you. Everything you always see about our defensive side is usually everything just reverts to Patrick Graham. If he's one of the great orchestrators behind Patrick Graham that's helped get this defense to what it is with all the weaknesses we had with, voids with injuries and lack of depth, and they turned out the product that they did on defense, I'm okay with giving them a shot. Like I said, I haven't really looked at defensive coordinators because I always felt that Patrick Graham was going to be here for us next season, but now I'm seeing that he's possibly not going to be. So with that being said, I totally understand now that now I need to start looking at who would possibly fill that void at defensive coordinator, and I see if you're mentioning Robbie Leonard, I think that would probably make sense if AP stays as our head coach. If AP's gone, whoever comes in is going to bring in his own people. There's just no two ways about it. Is your prediction for Black Monday? I did already say that, Arnie, but it's not really a prediction. It's more along the lines of, I honestly don't know. I can't get a read on what I think the organization's going to do. Hang on. I'm sorry. I gotta take a cough drop, man. My throat is so scratchy right now. No, all you hear is the bag crinkle. I can't really get a true read on what I think is going to happen with AP. Do I want him to stay? Yeah, I'm willing to give him another shot. I mean, the team's not giving up on him. I mean, it's evident that the team's not giving up on him. We're on a 2-game win streak. We have potential to go 3 games. So I'm not giving up on AP. But if they decide to let him go, I mean, so be it. What are you going to do? We all have no say in it. We can only give our thoughts on what we think should happen. So what's your prediction on Black Money? Fire AP or let Brady micromanage AP for Manning sweepstakes? If we're going to go through another season of us being on the cusp of winning and losing every week because we're tanking or we're not tanking, or first of all, the whole tank thing pisses me off because I never want to see us lose on purpose, or even the thought process of us losing. I am old school, and you play to win the game, and wherever you get your draft pick, you get your draft pick. That's where you land. That's where you land. That's where you got to work your magic as a GM to move yourself around the draft board to allow you to get players that you're targeting. You have to go into it thinking, I've got no shot at this guy, but I'm going to make it work. I'm going to get as close to getting that guy as I possibly can. And if I fail, I'm still going to get as close as I can. And then at that point, I'm taking the best guy available. If we got to go through that again next season, the fans are going to go crazy. I'm going to go crazy because I can't put up with another season like this. I've been a fan since '76. This is by far probably, and we've won 4 games, so that's saying a lot because we've had some 2-win seasons, and I think we had a 1-win season if I'm not mistaken. We were 1-15. This is by far, I think, one of the worst seasons I have ever experienced as a Raiders fan. Without a doubt. Without a doubt, the worst one. Because it was just so many things that made you scratch your head. You're like, why are we doing this? Why is this guy starting? Well, this guy's healthy. Why is he not starting? There were just so many things that went on this year that just made me look, I'm bald. So I can't even pull the hair out of my head, and I'm not pulling my mustache out because that hurts too goddamn much. So it's like it's the head scratches. Some of the things that we've done, some of the moves that we've made, some of the decisions that we made. Like the first biggest decision I think that we made that we fucked up on was signing Minshew to such a big contract. We shouldn't even have been a Raider. Never should have even been on this team. There was absolutely no reason to even grab him. I don't know why we did. We could have done something different. Just run it back with Turners and Minshew. No. Minshew's got to be gone. We got to dump his ass as soon as we can cut him where he doesn't impact us in the salary cap. Bye. See you later. Get rid of him. He's done. And again, Turner. There's no telling what's going to happen until they make a decision on what they're doing with AP. If we keep AP, I don't know. I don't know what his feeling's going to be. I don't know if he's going to try and bring in a different offensive coordinator. Would I like him to? Hell yeah. Because I don't think they're the answer either. But plus, there's talk of Stephen Turner going to North Carolina to be with Bill Belichick as his offensive coordinator. Which if he does, that's fine. Then we have to bring someone else in. And again, this brings me back to my other point, whereas if AP stays, how hard is it going to be for him to get an offensive coordinator or someone that can come in to be an offensive coordinator that's going to be willing to come to this dysfunctional organization knowing that your head coach is only under contract for possibly 1 more year, because everybody thinks he only signed a 2-year contract. So you basically are telling this person you're bringing in, you're only here for 1 year, without telling them you're only here for 1 year. So now what do you do? That's why it's going to be a tough uphill climb to bring in an OC and a DC with AP staying as the head coach. Where I was saying earlier, where it might be easier to bring in an OC and a DC if you've got a brand new head coach that's bringing guys with him, or bringing guys that want to coach with that coach, because that coach is going to be under a new contract. It's probably going to be for a 3-year contract or a 5-year or whatever, depending on who the person is. It might be easier for OCs and DCs to come with that coach because they know they're going to be here hopefully for a few years. Whereas coming in with AP already down to 1 year left on his contract, if he stays, who's going to want that job? I mean, I know I would take the job because it paid me more money than I've ever made in my entire life. So hell yeah, I'd take it. Not promising the product's going to be good. It could be just as good as the crap we've seen so far this year. But there's no promises. Oh, excuse me. So, well, I am going to cut this short now. Everybody that's in this channel, come back in like 15 minutes or so. The Raider Connection is going to be coming on. Again, that's going to be myself, Cheeto Linus, LV Raider 10, and Just Win Raiders Baby with Jay. So it'll be the 4 of us on tonight at 10 o'clock. So I'm just going to get off for a little bit, rest my throat, because I don't know why it's doing this to me now, because I was fine at the start of this. And to all our Booster Club members, don't forget this Sunday, 4:25 p.m. at the Providence Firefighters Hall, 92 Printery Street. It's our final game of the season to get together as a club. The kitchen is not operable or is not going to be open, but the club will be buying pizzas for everybody. We'll get a head count once everybody's there for the game, so we know exactly how many to order. My wife is also making a big ass cookie tray to bring for the day, so we will have some sort of desserts there. So again, the kitchen will be closed. So we will, as a club, the club will be buying pizzas for everybody, just like we did last Sunday when we found out when we got there that the kitchen was also closed. That has nothing to do with the facility. It was an outside source that was doing the cooking at the firefighters hall. But for some reason, that guy's not getting back to them. Nobody's heard from him for a couple weeks now. So as of right now, no kitchen. So we're not even going to go with the intent that the kitchen's going to be open. So we will have 50-50. We will be doing the 50-50. We have some door prizes that we're going to be giving out too. And some of the door prizes are actually items that Jason Goff brought back from Vegas when he was out there for the Jacksonville game with his son Vaughn. That he brought back for us to do as door prizes. So we will be offering those up as door prizes also on Sunday. We have the new beanies are in. As you can see, I'm wearing it now. We've got, right now we got 21 of the blacks because I already bought this one. We got 21 black hats. Actually, I got 2 more sold already too. So we've actually got 22. No, sorry. We've got 17 black beanies, and we've got four pink hats. Same thing with the logo on it, but on the pink hats, it's all in black logo. They're $20 a piece for anybody that wants to purchase one. We do have the magnets again. Don't forget the magnets. We'll have those with us. Oops, it helps if I put it the right way. We'll have the magnets with us. They can go on your car and your fridge, wherever, and it's got the QR code. So anybody just scan that code with your phone, and you'll be able to. It'll take you right to that link there, the Linktree account. And that'll bring you to all our social media paths. So don't forget, everybody that's in here watching, don't forget to hit the like, the subscribe. You got any comments you want to add in after the show, go for it. I'll answer them. But this is going to be a regular show that I'm going to do one next week on Tuesday night after the final game. You know, like this is like a Booster Club show, but I will also answer or discuss stuff about the Raiders too. But it would always start off as a Booster Club talk, and then would roll into Raider news and such. During the season, I want to do this as a weekly show because I'll have, every week after the game I can do this. During the off season, it might be every couple of weeks that I do this because the club doesn't do much during the off season. We do have a schedule. We do schedule events as a club throughout the season. So I will incorporate it along with those events more than likely. So it might be once a month possibly that I do these during the off season. But coming up for the next few months until the draft is here and gone, there's going to be plenty to talk about pertaining to the Raiders. Again, between the coaching situation with Black Monday, then free agency is going to hit, who we're going to hire if we have to hire coaches, what coaches, free agency, who we're going to re-sign, who we're going to let go, who we're going to bring in from other teams. And then we'll get into the draft. The combine before the draft, obviously, because definitely we'll be talking about the combine and then the draft itself. So it's going to be an interesting offseason. This is going to be an extremely busy offseason because we have such, how do I want to word this? We've got a vested interest as content creators going into this off season because there is just so much. This is going to be one of the busiest off seasons I think I've ever seen for the Raider organization because we've got such a high draft pick. We've got so many needs. We've got so much money in salary cap. We've got questions with the coaches, what we're doing. We got questions with players, what we're going to do with them, even ones that are under contract, max, and the free agents. So this is going to be an interesting offseason. It's going to be busy. It's going to be busy. Once the draft comes and goes, it'll slow down a little bit. But leading up to the draft and during the draft, it's going to be chaos. There's going to be a lot to do. There's going to be a lot to talk. So I hope you guys all tune in. And I appreciate everybody that's been following us, subscribing. We hit 600 subscribers in the last week. We're up to 630, I think, as of right now. So everybody that subscribed, really, really appreciate everybody following us. Everybody that's hit us up on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. Everybody that's been following us on that, really, really appreciate everybody. Wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, the fans and the followers. And look forward to good things coming from the Booster Club in social media. Like I said earlier, starting the process of working on an actual club store online. So we'll get to that at some point. But until then, I'll see you guys in like 15 minutes or so on the Raider Connection. Everybody, stay positive out there and go Raiders.